What is up, guys? Here inside of not Tower Defense Simulator, but we're going to be ranking all of the towers inside of Tower Defense Simulator. So yeah, we're just gonna hop right into it right off the bat. Mecha Base and War Machine I've never used, so yeah, those are both immediately eliminated. So our first tower is the Scout. Now the Scout is the first tower that you get once you join the game, along with the Sniper. And I'd say that if we were talking about before, it would be a straight F. It used to suck before, but now it's actually a D. It's really not that bad, but it's definitely not the greatest option either. So yeah, the next tower that we have, the Sniper, I'll also say that this is a low D, or I have to debate between a low D or a high F. I think I'm going to go with a low D, because it's just not really that effective. Sure, it's good for being free, but anything for free is good, so, yeah, low D. Next tower that we have is Paintballer. Paintballer, again, if it was before, it would be straight to F, but since we're talking about before, I would actually say that that Paintballer is actually a C tier. Either C or high D. Actually, I'm gonna go with high D. Because the splash damage can be helpful in some areas, such as the Badlands event, Badlands 2. It's actually kind of good there. It's not entirely useful, but it's not bad either. Alright, so the next tower that we have, the Soldier, I'm gonna be honest, it's an F. It's just not good. It's better than Scout, so if you would think that I would put it in at least D tier, but it costs a bit much. I know that it's only like 250 coins, but like that's 250 coins for a tower that's basically the exact same as Scout, which is free. So I would say that because of how bad it is later in the game, and just because of how bad it is for its price, I say that's straight to F. All right. Next we have Demo Man. Demo Man, he's not bad. He's your first AoE tower, besides Paintballer, but Paintballer I don't really count because it's tiny. I'm not gonna lie, Demo Man, he's actually a low C. I'll put him in a low C. His splash damage is very good, and you can get pretty far inside of Molten Mode with just Demo Man and supports. So yeah, low C. He deserves it. Freezer, obviously straight to F. It's just useless. They removed the ability a long time ago. The ability was really what made it good. It's just so bad now. It does almost no damage. The freeze is like half a second at most. It's just not good. Next we have the Militant. It's basically just a cheaper version of the Minigunner, except it also doesn't have a cooldown, or like, you know, having to rev up animation. So I'd say that this is a low B. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. It's just that it's not viable later on. It's good for early game though. So even if you do have all these other towers, sometimes you do want to bring it for early game if you just want to spice up your loadout, because it's not bad. The next tower that we have, Farm. I'm gonna be honest with you. Farm, I think it's kind of overrated. I don't think it should go in S. It should go in A. Now, sure, it's used in basically every strat ever, but that's why I don't like it. It's a very boring way to get money. For example, the Cowboy, wherever it is, there it is, and there it is. It's much more fun to get money from the Cowboy because you're getting money through actually helping out your team. Farming, you're just letting your team die and getting money for that. So I think that it's overrated, to be honest. Next we have Pyromancer. I would say that the Pyromancer is probably a B tier. Low B though. He's not bad. They removed the speed up, so he's a lot better than before. But he's also just not viable unless you have the golden version, which the golden version's right here, and we're not on to that one yet, so we will do that once we get there. Next tower we have Commander, straight S. It is basically needed in every loadout, just like Farm, except this one you have to be strategical with. This one you just let your team die with. So yeah, Commander's good, and it requires skill to use. which is a good combination. The Ace Pilot. I would say that this is either high B or low A, because it's a very good early game tower, just like the Militant. And the bombs are pretty good as well. It has one of the highest DPSs in the game as well, the drawback being that it can't attack enemies for that long. So I'd say that's actually a high B tier. It's not bad, it's not good either though. Like, later on in the game, you're gonna have much better towers. Next tower we have is Medic. I would say that this is probably a mid-tier B. It's good that they fixed the ability, but otherwise it's kind of useless, so you really only use it in like waves 35 through 40. And that's if you're playing on Fallen mode. If you're playing on any other mode that isn't Fallen, Hidden Wave, Hardcore events, it's just useless. Because not really anything has stuns outside of that, besides the final boss, which it's not too big of a stun. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so mid-tier B. Next we have the Shotgunner. Shotgunner I don't really use that much. I'm not gonna lie. He has a good damage output, but I'm gonna have to put him high C because he just has almost zero range. So he's just so useless later in the game because everything there is just fast, and he has to reload the shotgun while he only has like 2 range. So it's like if there's fast enemies, you're just screwed if you're using Shotgunner unless you have some at the back. But otherwise, it's decent. Next we have the Minigunner. Again, tower that I think is a little bit overrated, but it's not bad either. I would say that Minigunner is actually right behind Militant, because it has the rev up. It has 120 DPS at max, but the Ace Pilot has a lot more than that. Again, like I said with the Ace Pilot, it does not attack all the time, but at the same time, like you can get a few minis, and they only do 120 DPS. However, then again, there's no placement limit on Minigunner. So actually, I think I'm gonna put it ahead of Medic. Maybe. 1 minute. I have to sort this out. There we go. Yeah, I'd say that it's right behind Ace Pilot actually, since there's no placement limit to it. Next we have the Rocketeer, straight D tier. It's so useless. The only time that I ever use this is if I just want to switch out my loadout. It's just so garbage for strategies. It's worse than Demomen. It's supposed to be an upgrade to Demomen, and it's much worse, mainly because of how bugged the splash damage is in this game. So if they fix the splash damage, then it will be good again. But as of currently, the splash damage is a little bit broken, so it's terrible, and the Demomen is much better. Next we have the Military Base. Military Base is not bad. It's just another tower that I don't really ever have a use for. So I'm gonna have to put it at high C again with the Enforcer. It's good, but it's really only good early game, and that's if you can get a tank. But otherwise, it's kind of useless. There's not really any time where I would think to use Military Base in specific over any other tower. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with that. DJ, high A, I'd say. He's not bad. It's just like if you're soloing Molten mode, it's one of the towers that you just don't need. If you're soloing Fallen, you definitely need it. But if you're soloing Molten, you don't need it. Whereas the Commander, you definitely need it in basically any mode. So yeah. Next we have the Electro Shocker. Now, I would put this in F, but it's actually quite good for Hidden Wave. So I'll put it mid D. It has bad damage, but it can stun bosses. It's only for like a 50th of a second, but it can stun bosses. But more importantly, it's really useful in Hidden Wave, along with Toxic Gunner. But Toxic Gunner got nerfed, so it's no longer good. Ranger, I want to put it in A or S, but it got nerfed, so I'm going to have to put it in mid B. In fact, behind the Minigunner, probably just ahead of the Militant, but not ahead of the Medic, because Medic is more useful. If you're not grinding hardcore mode, then Ranger would be an S. But because of hardcore towers, the Engineer and the Accelerator, Ranger's just so useless. It's sad because none of the cliff towers so far are that good. But it used to be good. It's just that it got nerfed slightly, and it kind of ruined it. So that's unfortunate. Accelerator, you see this thing in every single loadout. You know it's going S tier. It's basically needed for anything in the game. If you wanted solo fallen mode, you need Accelerator most of the time. I did make a strategy without using Accelerator, and made a few actually. But if you're trying to solo fallen, you're most likely going to bring Accelerator with you, because it's just much easier that way. And it's basically used in everything. Every event, every game mode. As soon as you unlock it, it's going to permanently be in your loadout, no matter what you're doing. So, yeah. The Crook Boss. The Crook Boss isn't bad. In fact, I would say that he's probably B tier, ahead of the Pyromancer, because he spawns the guards. The guards are kind of weak, though, until you upgrade them, but the Crook Boss itself is pretty good. Again, it's like an off-brand minigunner. So I'm going to put it at B tier. The turret. This one could be controversial. I'm going to put it in low... I'm actually going to put it in high C tier. It is good, but it's not that good. It has a placement limit of 5. So, and it only does 125 DPS. So, by getting 5 minigunners, you're almost having the exact same thing as the turrets, except you can place more minigunners, whereas the turrets, you're just locked at 5, so you can't place any more. So, it's kind of useless in everything, unless you have a strategy where you specifically only have like 5 towers left, in which case I guess you can use it, but again, why would you? The Accelerator is much better. So yeah, it's kind of useless. Next we have the Mortar. The Mortar, another garbage splash tower. It's ahead of Rocketeer though. Rocketeer is by far the worst. I'll put it ahead of Demoman, because it is good early game. It's just that you don't see it often because there's much better towers. Next we have Pursuit. Again, a tower with splash damage. Except this one is also like Ace Pilot, where it has normal guns as well. I'm gonna put it low B tier, because the normal guns themselves are good, except the rockets don't do much of anything. Again, the splash damage is bugged, so the rockets are just basically there for show. And plus the targeting can kill you over multiple times. So you basically never see this tower getting used, except for level 100 players who just got it, who will quickly realize that it is a garbage tower. Next we have the Cowboy. Normal Cowboy, I don't really experiment that much with, but from what I remember, about a week ago, when I was testing it out, it's not that bad. I'm gonna put it high B tier, because it's a reliable source of money, but it's not as good as the farm. Though once again, it is more interesting, so that's why it's high B tier. If it wasn't interesting, it would probably be low B tier, but it has a fun factor to it, so. Next we have the Gladiator. Probably high A. It's good for early game. It's basically the best early game tower, but outside of that, it's kind of useless, and it has low range, just like the Enforcer, or the Shotgun, or whatever you want to call it. Which it does make up for that in having, again, a 120 DPS at max, just like the Minigunner. But later on, it's just kind of useless. Sure, it's cheap. It has a high DPS. It's good for early game. But after early game and semi-mid game, it's kind of useless. So yeah, you can use it up until Fallens basically, and then as soon as the Fallens come, you just gotta get better towers. Commando. Now, if we did this as soon as the tower came out, it would be a straight S tier. However, it sucks now. Like, once again, splash damage is ruined, so it's already terrible. But the laser gunshots are even worse, because you have so many better towers now. Like the Minigunner, much better. Cowboy, much better. Gladiator, much better. Even Medic is basically much better. So the Commando, I want to put him higher up, but I'm going to have to say low D, because I just never have a reason to use him unless I just want to have fun with the game. But otherwise, I just have no reason. Slasher, basically just Gladiator, but worse. I'll put it low D tier. The problem that I have with it is that, oh my god, what am I doing? The problem that I have with it is that or high D tier, I mean. But the problem that I have with it, finally I'll say it, is that it has less DPS than Gladiator to start off with. I think it also has less range, unless you count the knife throw. But the knife throw at max is useless because it has 3 knives, but those extra 2 knives are never gonna hit anything else. So having an extra 2 knives is just pointless. Unless you're at a curve and you just conveniently hit it, but then again, it's like 10 damage, so it doesn't even matter. So it's just terrible. All the first upgrades suck. All the last upgrade sucks. The only semi-decent upgrade is like the second to last one, but even then, by that time, you could already have like a level 4 Gladiator, which will just shred everything. So it's high D tier. Frost Blaster, again, another tower that I want to rate really high, but unfortunately I have to put it low C. It's better than Freezer, by far. It does a lot more damage, but once again, it has the problem where the freeze is not that long. And now the way that they could fix this tower is by bringing back the old ability where once it shoots them, it also slows them down afterwards. And if they did that, I could see it being a mid B tier. But as of right now, since it has no other thing besides the like 2-second freeze and like 26 damage per shot, it's just low C tier. It's just not good. Swarmer, high A tier. It does a lot of damage, but it got nerfed obviously, so it's not S tier anymore. But it's still really fun to use. It has a really high DPS. It's really cheap, just like the Gladiator. But the problem is that it doesn't get hidden detection, so yeah, the Gladiator is better in that sense. But everything else I'd say the Swarmers are better in. Also, the first 2 levels are not that good, so yeah. The Hunter Tower. Before the Hunter Tower would be F, but now I'll put him low D tier. Well, I'll put him high D tier along with the Slasher, because he now can aim up. And since he can aim up, that allows him to actually be useful in the game, because when you need to shoot balloons, all of your other towers are useless, but you can turn to Hunter, and you know he'll get the balloons out of the sky. So I'll put him ahead of Slasher. Next we have the Archer. If you guys remember when this first came out, this was literally the best tower in the game. You could solo Fallen with just this tower pretty much. Maybe with a farm or a golden cowboy as well. But besides that, you could basically win the game with just Archer. However, now, it is terrible. I'm gonna have to put it high F. It's just not viable. The arrow pierce is not nearly enough of a pierce. It doesn't fire nearly fast enough for my enjoyment. And most of all, it does not do damage at all, pretty much. It's like 20 damage, I think, at max. So, it's just useless. Next we have the Sentry. Sentry got removed from the game, so we're going to be judging off of when it was first into the game, or right before it left the game. And back then, I would say that it's a high B. It was bugged, so it made it fire stupidly fast. But because of that bug, it was actually really viable. So I'm gonna put it at high B. It was basically like the minigunner, except it fired a little bit faster, I think. So yeah. Next we have the Golden Cowboy, straight to S tier, best farming in the game by far. It's so much better, especially with the revamp to Badlands 2 and the Cowboy. It's much better than Farm. It's much more fun than Farm. It's not as good as Commander or Accelerator, but it's much more fun. Next we have the Golden Crook Boss. Once again, straight to A. It's very useful of a tower, and it's more fun to use. The problem that I had with the normal Crook Boss is that the guards were not strong enough, and the Golden Crook Boss immediately buffs the guards, and it buffs the initial stats a little bit as well. So it's basically exactly what I wanted, except there's better towers for some occasions, so it's not used as much, but it's still really good of a tower. Golden Minigunner, right ahead of Golden Crook Boss. Actually, I think a little bit ahead of Farm, along with Golden Crook Boss. Farm is low A. But Golden Minigunner, it's a lot higher of DPS, so it's a lot more useful. Once again, it's better than turret pretty much, because there's no placement limit, and it's just much better. Golden Pyromancer. Once again, the problem that I had with Pyromancer is that it didn't have hidden detection, and Golden Pyromancer immediately fixes that. I do think that it's a little bit too flashy though. It's you can turn the graphics down and put on low graphics, but it kind of lags the game a little bit, for me at least, sometimes. So I will say that it's just above farm slightly, but since it lags the game, that is a little bit of a problem. Otherwise, it would probably be ahead of Golden Crook Boss, but it kind of lags the game sometimes. Golden Scout, again, right with these guys. Probably right ahead of, actually no, I'd say behind Golden Minigunner. It's the second best early game tower along with Gladiator. It's Gladiator, except it can't handle bosses, but it has a lot more range, so with spam it does a lot better. So yeah. Golden Soldier, I'd say probably low B tier, right ahead of Pursuit. It's good, but it's not good enough for me. What I kind of need is something that I can rely on, and I feel like I can't rely on Golden Soldier. It's if you only have Golden Soldier as your only golden tower, then I guess you can use it for early game, but it's basically just Golden Scout but worse. So if you have Golden Scout and get Golden Soldier, there's no point of using it. So yeah, it's kind of useless in that sense. But yeah, next tower that we have, Toxic Gunner. It's another slowing tower. Before it got nerfed, it would be high A, but then it got nerfed, so now it kind of sucks. So probably low B. We have a lot of B's now. The next tower that we have, Sledger, low A. Again, ahead of Farm. I don't know why I have to do this every single time, but ahead of Farm. It's good freezing. It's the best stunning tower in the game, pretty much. Again, viable for Hidden Wave, except it does a lot of damage as well. So it's viable in normal matches as well. So every once in a while you can see people using this, outside of events and stuff. Next we have the Engineer. Probably high A. It's not as good as the Accelerator by any means, but it has the rockets. It's the best splash game tower in the game. But the problem is that it only gets the rockets at level 6, and level 6 is the most expensive of any tower in the game. So that is unfortunate. Next we have the Executioner. It's our last tower. I'd say that the Executioner, probably high A as well. Do I want it ahead of DJ though? I'll say that it's behind DJ just by a little bit. It's good. It's destroys spam. Once again though, just like Golden Scout, it struggles with bosses. But then again, that is by design. It can also hit flying units. So it's another reason why Hunter's all the way down here, because there are other towers that can do that much better. And if you position it correctly on the Wrecked Battlefields map for hardcore, you can actually hit the invisibles with the axe and clear out the first wave of invisibles, which really can help you out. So yeah, that is my list of all the TDS towers in the game as of currently. If I did miss any, let me know, because I might be missing one. I don't think so though. But yeah, this is my tier list. We have War Machine and Mech Base as never used, because I didn't like new TDS back then, and I'm not an admin. F tier, we have Freezer as the worst, Soldier second worst, and then Archer as the best F tier. For D tier, we have Commando as the worst, Rocketeer as the second worst. Actually, I'm gonna put Rocketeer behind Commando. So Rocketeer is the worst, Commando's second worst, Sniper third worst, Electroshocker fourth worst, Scout fifth worst, Paintballer sixth worst, the Demoman seventh worst, the Slasher second best, and then Hunter best D tier. And then for C tier, we have Frost Blaster in last, Mortar in fourth, Enforcer in third, Military Base in second, and then Turret in first. For B tier, we have Toxic Gunner in last. Then we have Pursuit, Golden Soldier, Normal Pyromancer, Normal Quick Boss, Militant, Ranger, Medic, Normal Minigunner, Ace Pilot, Normal Cowboy, and then Sentry. For A tier, we have Farm in last place. Then we have Sledger, Golden Pyromancer, Golden Quick Boss, Golden Soldier, or not Golden Soldier, Golden Scout, Golden Minigunner, Executioner, DJ, Gladiator, Swarmer, and then Engineer. And then for S tier, we have Golden Cowboy, Accelerator, and Commander. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the news channel, or you want to see some more Tower Defense Simulator, or just you want to see more tier lists. And everybody, peace out.